There's a persistent internet claim that 4 minutes of sustained eye contact with a stranger triggers a biological shift toward falling in love. While it sounds like an urban legend, the idea is rooted in a landmark psychological study conducted by Arthur Aron. Aron's research became famous in part because one pair of participants, who were complete strangers before the experiment, eventually married. But as the story spread online, the internet focused on the 4-minute gaze, while ignoring the specific conditions that made that connection possible in the first place. Without the proper foundation, holding that gaze is an uncomfortable, silent staring contest rather than a moment of deep connection. To see what actually happened in the lab, we have to look at the full protocol, a structured process designed to rapidly accelerate how well two people know each other. Arthur Aron's goal wasn't to manufacture romance. He wanted to observe the specific mechanisms that allow interpersonal closeness to form in a controlled environment. The experiment relies on a two-part method, beginning with a list of 36 questions. These questions are organized to force a steady increase in mutual disclosure between the participants. It starts with relatively light, social inquiries from set 1, like asking if the other person would ever want to be famous. By set 2, the questions move toward more difficult personal territory, requiring participants to share their most painful memories. The final set is the most invasive. Participants must discuss a personal problem and ask their partner, a person they've known for less than an hour, for advice on how to handle it. This sequence replaces the slow pace of natural friendship. In the study, participants reported levels of closeness that usually take months or years to develop organically. Once the questions are finished, the participants move into the final phase, 4 minutes of absolute silence while maintaining eye contact. While the 4-minute duration is the part of the study that went viral, the timing itself is largely arbitrary. There is no evidence of a biological threshold that triggers a romantic response once a timer hits the 4-minute mark. The gaze functions as a point of focus for the openness established during conversation. It forces participants to remain present with the vulnerability just shared. In this silence, communication happens through facial expressions. Without verbal distractions, they acknowledge the trust built. The combination of intensive sharing followed by focused attention creates a perception of intimacy that neither step could produce on its own. This experiment proves that certain aspects of human connection can be replicated in a lab, but it also highlights the difference between closeness and actual lifelong partnership. Scientists distinguish between the intimacy measured in this study and the complex experience of romantic love. Long-term relationships require shared history, compatible values, and neurochemical changes that a 1-hour exercise cannot provide. However, the study suggests that the visceral feeling of a spark or a deep connection can be produced through a specific set of psychological triggers. If a feeling as personal as intimacy can be prompted by a timer and a list of questions, it raises questions about how much of our emotional life is a result of chance versus predictable behavior. Knowing that closeness can be practiced and prepared for, the real question is whether you would use these questions to see how quickly you could connect with a stranger.